We are gathered here tonight in the spirit of reclaiming the militant history of International Women's Day. In the midst of the turbulent political and economic times prior to World War I, over 20,000 women garment workers staged a general strike for 13 cold New York winter weeks. Their call? Simple: better pay, better working conditions. Inspired by these Italian and Jewish immigrant garment workers, socialist and feminist delegates to the 1910 International Conference of Socialist Women in Copenhagen called for an annual International Women's Day. It was to be a day for working class women's demands and an expression of international solidarity as resistance to international solidarity and resistance as imperialism ravaged the lives of women the world over. Generations later, we are told that the feminism of the 1960s can be summed up, and I'm sure you've all heard this, as the personal is the political. But the lesson we forget from this important period of rebellion and uprisings is that there are no personal solutions to political problems. Feminism has always meant collective struggle. Today, feminism has come to popularly mean individual strategies to address the problems that women face. Feminism has come to mean sharing household work with your partner. Feminism has come to mean being sex positive. Even Michelle Obama is a feminist, blinding us to the deep class divisions in our society. For who can truly afford these individual solutions that this brand of feminism has to offer, while patriarchal violence and the super exploitation of women under imperialism around the globe continues to escalate? What has imperialism served up for working class women today? A borderless war on terror, heightened plunder of our lands and resources, low wages or no wages, dangerous, dirty, and degrading work, increased deportations, restrictions on the rights of immigrants, criminalization of resistance, and the list goes on, and I'm sure we all have examples here tonight. For the most marginalized women living in Canada, imperialism is not a foreign concept or an abstract idea. Colonialism and imperialism have been a daily feature in the lives of Indigenous women in the Americas and the lives of third world women for centuries. As oppressed and exploited women, we know that capitalist patriarchy underpins the crisis women face today. We look around the world and see that the women's movement in the imperialist countries has yet to gain true liberation for women. Women's reproductive labor continues to form the basis of capitalist profits. In Canada, upper-class women can afford to pay for private live-in nannies who live in a form of modern-day slavery. And yet, on the other side of the tracks, 1 in 7 women live below the poverty line. Upwards of 60% of single mother families are or will be reliant upon welfare. BC has the highest child poverty rate, and we talk about child poverty as if they're separate from their families and their mothers, who also live in poverty. The government services that women rely on are increasingly slashed: childcare, healthcare, education, community-based services, and welfare. And when these services are cut, who picks them up? Who does that work? It's women in the community for free. Our work is devalued, and despite decades of brave struggles of women in Canada continue to be paid only 70% of what our male counterparts earn. I think someone at the forum last night said that women produce 40%, or women are 40% of the official labor force, but only hold 1% of the world's GDP. So you can see this inequity in the distribution of wealth. Migrant women in Canada form a source of cheap labor, often providing privatized healthcare and modern-day domestic slavery to the Canadian middle and upper classes. Migrant women in Canada face a double burden of racist and profit-driven state and corporate practices designed to extract maximum profit from women. And yet, at the same time, bourgeois feminism has been exported and promoted around the world to sidetrack or silence or undermine women's liberation struggles. As an example, in Afghanistan, Canada and other imperialist powers use the rhetoric of liberating Afghani women to switch a reactionary and patriarchal but uncompliant regime with a reactionary, patriarchal, and compliant regime. This rhetoric is selectively applied throughout the Islamic world, where US, Canada, and their imperialist partners want to target and undermine the legitimacy of existing regimes. And yet at the same time, Israel is held up as a bastion of women's rights, despite its violent occupation, targeting and jailing of Palestinian women, and the denial of their right of return or other basic rights. So we really must decry this use of Western liberal feminism to undermine women's revolutionary anti-imperialist struggles for national and social transformation, and hence our panel here tonight. We must speak up when bourgeois feminists frustrate a deeper analysis of the impacts of global capitalism and of class on women's lives. We must challenge the charges of anti-feminism when women prioritize national or social liberation over a shallow equality with men. At what point do we say, as women, it's not enough to struggle for a semblance of equality under capitalism? At what point do we acknowledge and name the fact that some women are gaining their so-called liberation on the backs of other women? When do we collectively refuse this deal?
Is that tomorrow?
No, just one sentence to read. We acknowledge that under capitalism there is no such thing as neutrality. We must stand together against economic exploitation and patriarchal violence. We support the actions such as the Tyendinaga Mohawk blockade demanding an inquiry and demanding justice for the 824 First Nations women. We stand in solidarity with women who struggle and resist the ongoing colonization of BC. We stand with working class women who demand their rights. We support struggles that directly challenge exploitation and plunder. We honor women who number among the fallen martyrs, the freedom fighters, and the political prisoners. And at the end of tonight, we hope to have a group photograph with some of our placards in honor of these 4 women who I'll talk about later. We honor the revolutionary women who continue to struggle within their own movements for an end to patriarchal culture and to push women ahead in the leadership. And in the process of these inspiring struggles, we see the new social relations of reciprocal collaboration and genuine equality beginning to take form. So on that note, a very long note, we will start with our video from Leila Khaled.